say no. I didn't have any idea of what I thought was really going to happen. I knew it was going to talk about diversity and cultural differences and, you know, how to be aware of those things. But what I found is that it's gone much deeper than what I thought it was going to be. And it's really providing a lot of tools on just how to go about going deeper and learning about my students and keeping in mind the cultural differences and the backgrounds. And it's great because it ties right in with formative assessment, which is what we've been doing. So it makes sense. It kind of makes, I feel like I'm at this really good place to mix the two, you know, with doing formative assessment and keeping my own self-awareness up and learning more and more about my students. I feel like I'm pretty good about building relationships with my students, but this just goes a little deeper and reminds me that I need to do a little more, you know, in my classroom. There's things I need to do more of.
Well, of course, as teachers, we always try to connect with our children. So certainly the partnership, the alliance building, the rapport, all those things are definitely in place with teaching, because you want to be able to reach your children and tap into them. But the way the presentation is about those pieces is just, it takes you deeper. And certainly the big thing for me on the first night was that self-reflection kind of thing. And it's just the more we reflect upon what we're doing as educators and what more we can do, and the process of how we do that is so vitally important. And I also really enjoyed the role of us being students this time, the actual part of that piece of how our kids feel when they're being introduced to something new or something they're not comfortable with. And so it was just very practical and real, and that's important.
I haven't found a way to actually bridge that gap that I'm seeing between my students that I'm seeing in the office and coaching a teacher on ways to avoid that particular situation. So, and then just kind of, I was hoping that coming here these last 3, 2.5 days would kind of give me some tools. But what I've discovered, quite frankly, there's a lot more deep digging that I have to do within myself, just because a lot of stuff, like a lot of personal stuff has come up for me in terms of my own experience as a student and connecting that to the experience that my students are currently facing. So just, I've put myself in their seat in these last 2.5 days.
I've always thought of myself as someone who is a good listener to my students, and what I realized over this weekend was that I tend to want to help them solve their problems by solving them for them. And so I've learned a lot about listening and being a constructivist listener, being able to honor my students as individuals who are capable of problem solving. And perhaps sometimes the best thing to do is just be that listener and not necessarily try and do everything for them. While they are still young, because they're elementary students, they're old enough to start critically thinking about their own situation and their own options. And so I'm taking back being more of a guiding force and less of a problem solver.
I think I just realized that if what we're really focused on, if equity means that we are giving everyone what they need so that they can develop to their fullest potential, then it's really more about us as teachers being facilitators of that process and not the driver of that process. And so my role, I feel like I've seen a shift in my role, and it's kind of just allowed me to think more about what skills do the students need to develop so that they can have more agency, instead of me always having the idea of being like the one who goes in to save everyone, you know, because that's not what equity work is about. It's about building capacity all around so that there isn't a need for anyone to feel like they have to go in and solve problems for someone else, but that everyone has the tools to navigate through their own life and solve the problems that they come up against.